Nervous system and performance. When we talk about performance, most people immediately think about muscles, strength, or conditioning. I do too, right? We all want to perform, and it's usually a physical metric in that way. Your nervous system, though, is what actually runs the show. This video isn't very long, but we're wrapping up in the education series, and it needed to be addressed. Your nervous system decides how much force you can produce, how coordinated your movements are, how quickly you recover, how safe you feel in your body, how sensitive you are to pain. Remember, pain is the emotional response to what's happening. So if your nervous system is dysregulated, it makes sense you experience heightened sense of pain. Your nervous system also decides how well you adapt to stress. Performance is never just about how strong you are or how fast you run or how far you go. It's about the state that your nervous system is in when you're asking your body to perform. Your nervous system has two primary modes that matter for performance. I know you've heard these, and it's sympathetic and parasympathetic states. Sympathetic and parasympathetic. Okay. The sympathetic state, often called fight or flight, prepares you for action. Your heart rate increases, breathing speeds up, muscles become alert. This state is useful during training, competition, or movements that require intensity. I'm grateful for the sympathetic state when I compete in jiu-jitsu. Those physiological markers help me during periods of intensity where I need it. It's a good thing. Again, stress isn't always inherently bad, but it's being intentional about when we experience what type of stress. The parasympathetic state, often called rest and digest or rest and regulate, is what supports recovery. The opposite happens. Your heart rate slows, breathing becomes controlled, and tissue healing improves. This state is where adaptation actually happens. The problem isn't using one or the other. It's when the systems get stuck in one state for too long, or we're not controlling the system, it's controlling us. Now, I could go in and talk about how your nervous system sets the tone for anything in life, but this is about performance, and this program is built through movement. And so we're going to correlate it to movement and performance. But I just want you to remember that your nervous system runs the show in everything. If you're struggling to lose weight, it's not just about calories in versus out. It's also nervous system, right? But as it relates to performance and chronic stress, right? When someone lives in a chronically stressed state, constantly sympathetic, performance will decline. I work with a lot of moms. It's easy to be in a state of stress as a mother, but a lot of moms have really big goals, right? Performance is easy to decline when we're stressed. Now, we need to have stress for adaptation for our goals, but if we don't control stress outside of the stress that we put on in just a training metric, it will rule our life. Pain increases. We're more sore and fatigued all of the time. Muscle tension rises. Coordination decreases. Recovery slows. Injury can happen. Even if training volume stays the same, the body becomes less tolerant to load. So this is where capacity decreases, and a lot of times it's just nervous system. It's why people often feel like they're doing all the right things but still feel stuck. It's not just having the perfect plan. You are the plan. Remember, the nervous system isn't regulated enough to support progress. Regulation is what improves your output. So it's a huge mindset shift to understand this because it's not weakness. It's not woo-woo. Regulation is science. It's capacity. When your nervous system feels safe, output is going to improve. So more for the sake of more isn't better. Intentional and optimal is better. We want strength expression to increase, right? Who doesn't want to get stronger? We want to increase the skill that we're working on. We want to be more efficient at what we're doing, all of these things. But this is why practices like nasal breathing, slow controlled exhales, more zone 2 aerobic work, adequate sleep, intentional deloading. I could keep going on. All of these things, they don't take away from performance, they're supporting it. We train for the opportunity to recover. I see all of the time people are afraid to take a rest day because it's not going to get them to where they want to go. But if we just keep going, that's not going to get you to where you want to go either because your body is overtaxed, right? So we can have stress, like mental stress that can create chronic stress in our body physically, but we can also have physiological stress, right? Often mental stress that we experience, like not setting boundaries, being in the wrong relationships, doing jobs we hate, all of these things, our body keeps the score and they show up in our body physically, right? Our body doesn't know if it's in our brain or our body, right? But our body will keep that score of whatever we're experiencing. Pain or performance is what requires, or my gosh, performance requires regulation. You can't outtrain a chronically dysregulated nervous system. At some point, more effort stops working. That's why more isn't always better. Regulation is what lets your training stick. We train for the opportunity to recover. Recover is where adaptation happens. If you don't do this, you never adapt. So, yes, you're burnt the hell out because you're always doing. Once you understand how to move in between these states, how to turn intensity on and how to turn it down, you gain a level of control that most people never develop. You don't get stuck in these states. You control what state you're in with intent, right? So when you think about performance, I don't want you just to think about how hard you're working, how far you're going, how fast you're going, but also how well is your nervous system supporting that work. The strongest, most resilient athletes aren't just the ones who train hard. They're the ones who know how to regulate, recover, and adapt. That's what allows performance to keep improving over time, right? And I'll close this video lesson by going back to, yes, there's capacity versus load, but the hierarchy of needs. Remember, it's that pyramid we talked about, and recovery and capacity balance being the baseline, then flexibility, mobility, strength balance, then skill and motor control. Skill and motor control is where, skiing, snowboarding, mountain biking, trail running, all of those things live. Recovery and capacity balance being the framework. But again, I've also talked about how there's like a dotted line below that that is breath work. And so our nervous system is inherently linked to our breath, right? And so, there through this video series that we've gone through, if you still feel like you're living in this chronic state of stress, even if you're doing all of the right things, yes, there's intention to the program design that we have from a like physiological functional standpoint to your body, right? We went through a movement assessment that showed us your flexibility and mobility, and then we started to build strength balance through force capacity testing. We've done all of these things from a physical standpoint, right? This is not a random program. We've done that. But if you're still experiencing all of these things, well, congrats, you're human. So life be lifin', right? So I would encourage you to refer back to the lessons on breath work and capacity there, because your breath is that dotted line underneath, like it's like your crawl space to your house. It's the secret little thing we didn't know existed below your foundation that supports the entire foundation up above it, right? A pretty house is nothing if everything below it is shit. So your breath can be one of the biggest, lowest hanging fruits that's free to help you have a regulated nervous system. Okay. It's also giving yourself grace. This shit is hard, right? If it was, everybody would do it and this program wouldn't exist. But it exists because people need it and it's hard. Never said it was going to be easy. Okay. So, I encourage you to, we're starting to wrap up the education series. I think there's one more video, but this is not just a 16-week set it and forget it. This is mentorship. These lessons and materials are things that will stick with you for the rest of your life so that you can continue to live a full life. If you half-ass things, you will have a half-ass life. If you want to live a full-ass life, you have to go all in. And that isn't just do it, you figured it out, you're done. It's you're human, you're having a human experience, life changes, all of these things will influence how you show up in your body every single day. It's using these education and lessons to support you in every phase of life, because it's not just a matter of when these things or if these things happen, it's when. So it's not about preventing it, it's about preparation so that we can be prepared for how to navigate all of the things that life throws at us. This is when you take your power back versus it controlling you. You get to control it. This is your life. You are the author of your own life, right? As always, there is an education piece to this with journal and reflection prompts. Please let me know what comes up for you. I'd love to hear from you. I can only meet you where you're at. So all of your aha moments and things that come up for you are what make you you. And it's how I continue to support you in the best way that I know how. So until next time, I can't wait to see you in the next video.